This song is the anthem to our generation. The epitome of loneliness. The oppressive feeling of a dystopian future. The oxymoron of being connected more so than ever before, and yet millions feel more and more disconnected with reality, with friends, with family. This weird techno dystopian feeling that's perfectly encapsulated within this song, After Dark. I can't tell you how many times I've listened to it before. Thousands at least. If you're in the communities online that I am, you see this song pop up a lot within video edits, within just popular song playlists. The rhythm, the lyrics, the atmosphere, the vibe of the song, it conveys a meaning that is worth a million words. The dull feeling of a hopeless milieu, the zeitgeist of our generation, the loneliness, the sorrow, the dull emptiness, the lack of purpose. These thoughts, emotions, they plague more than just me. It's a common theme within many people growing up now that we're just a giant experiment. This new technology, the internet, social media, online dating, Facebook, Instagram, you name it, you got it, right? I think our generation has realized a huge double-edged sword it is now. And the fluidity of which we just take it and adapt to it. But the intangible loss of meaning that has come with it is the consequence of that. In this time of technology and interconnectedness, we're more disconnected than ever. People are waking up to the fact that communities have broken. Do you know your neighbor? I don't. Something that we would have all, in the past, probably appreciated more time by ourselves. Away from, our direct contact neighbors. Now seems foolish. Community is dead. We've stripped the flesh off local communities, local groups, tribes, as you will, that made people feel like they belonged to something. And we've replaced it with technology. People we can relate with thousands of miles away, we can never actually see, feel, look in their eyes in person. Feel their flesh gripping ours as we handshake or hug. I think this song encapsulates this nearly perfectly. And that is part of the reason why there's such an affinity with it. And why it's, in the small term of it, blown up popularity. When I gaze off into the middle distance listening to the song, the emotion that it evokes is not hope, not a courageous future, but a depressive, slow, mechanical grind at your humanity. The loss of purpose and meaning. The loss of passion, emotion. Just dulled senses. Overstimulated environment. Visuals beyond compare. Dopamine everywhere and yet nowhere. As you're dulled to society, dulled to the real world, dulled to your innate desires, dulled to purpose and meaning, dulled to brotherhood and bondship. A blade no longer used for cutting. You see the same feeling reflected within music videos that are paired with this song. Things like American Psycho, Drive, Fight Club, Blade Runner 2049. All these movies have different aspects of the words that I've been using to describe this. The lack of purpose and meaning. The lack of community. The lack of sacrifice. These are all common threads that are leading more and more people of my generation to self-delete, to remove themselves from the equation. We've broken everything down to the quantifiable, scientific, measurable meaning of life. Dating apps allow us to maximize our potential mate status, kind of discounting actual background, history, community that you've lived with, grown up with. Outward appearance matters the most. I'm not criticizing it. It's just a fact. I don't know if that's the right way to go about it. But it's the fact. Less so now, but when I was a couple years younger, actually, more than a couple years, almost since I can remember, at least consistently about a decade ago, I just remember just a lack of purpose, understanding, that what I did in life right now didn't have an impact, didn't really matter. It sounds kind of foolish because I know in the moment no one would want to go through suffering like this, but I looked at the wars, the sacrifices people went through in past generations, and I was jealous. I was jealous that they were able to give their lives for something they cared about. I think people my age, around my generation, they see so many corrupt systems. How frail justice is, and how sometimes justice isn't obtained. It's cheated, it's beguiled, it's pushed aside. That's disheartening. And then you get the approach of nihilism, reckless understanding, of power. To make change, power is necessary. I'm talking about this type of topic to my brother, and he's a bit older than me, but still, we came to the conclusion that yes, we should be voting, but the inputs that we're getting, the truth that is coming out with all these scandals of power, of corrupt people doing evil things, of our own government being mishandled completely. Him and I both came to the conclusion, reluctantly, sadly, that if we're going to take all the data inputs and kind of look at them, how much does it really matter if we're voting? Yes, technically we voted President Biden in, but the dude can't even talk. Who's actually running the country? We don't know. It's a puppet. And if the President of the United States is the puppet, then who are the masters? Corporations, banks, special interest groups? I went on a tangent there, but the point is, this song exemplifies all of that. Even as I'm shedding this piece of clothing, I'm shedding the pretended reality that some of these things are just, the systems we have in place are fair to all people, all American citizens. We're simply looking at the data and realizing we don't know how much, but some of this is a lie. And that dystopian reality that sets in, that is what is exemplified by this song. This nihilistic acceptance, this depressive state of understanding. Power to corrupt people, power to make change. What can the average man or woman do? We came to this conclusion kind of together as we shed our preconceptions of reality, we realized that if you want to have influence, if you want to have change, you have to be a person of influence. You have to have an audience, power through influence, power through a business, through money, or power through political means. And that the average person I lose faith sometimes in the average person. Knowing how dumb I am, and knowing there's at least 50% of the US population that's dumber than me, is depressing. How easily can we be hoodwinked in the modern era, knowing how dumb we are? All these feelings, the lack of community, of neighborhood bondship, the lack of strong parents, mother and father, with good morals to raise for the next generation. The ever-increasing part of technology that is controlling the majority of our living life. How much time I spend on social media, on websites, on YouTube, being separated from real life. What's actually happening in real life. Not savoring the moment, even if it sucks. Being distracted, being drugged up on the internet. And then also losing confidence in our political system. The Epstein Islands occurring every which way. All of these problems that I've named, and I'm sure dozens of more others that people can bring up, these all are encompassed in After Dark. I believe that. As I said, this is the anthem of our generation. Dystopian mistrust. Political divide. Community breakdown. Interconnected depression. Comparison overload. All these pressures mounding like a backpack with increasing weight on the shoulders of our generation, pushing us down. It is our burden to carry it, even as our back gives out. Slowly, we're grinded into dust from these pressures. More and more of these responsibilities driving us down. Trying to straighten our back to fight against the inevitable. That's what it feels like sometimes. The inevitable. The dystopian that is coming for us all. I don't mean to say that it's all over. Far from it. I hope the most human thing a human can say I hope. The strongest emotion. The one born of desperation. The one to push you past your limits in the moment of failure. Push past that failure into success as a desperate calling. And I could be wrong. This could be only in the United States that I feel this new zeitgeist emerging within my generation. But I feel like this is almost globally. From South Korea to the Middle East to Europe to all the modern world with developed luxuries connecting us more than ever. We are more lonely than ever now, than ever before. The sense of family, strong bonding, the community above it, the small government directly around it. And the overarching legislation, representative democracies, voting, and nihilistic outview with the internet. The all-encompassing, never-escaping internet, social media, hyper-competitive, hyper-comparison, all-encompassing over it, affecting us all on all levels. It can be used for good, no doubt. But many of us see now that there isn't a logical approach to this. We are an experiment, driven by incentives, instinct, ambition, drive, sexual desires. All of these things are culminating to the society, the culture we have today. We are a product of our generation, of our time, the cultural cues that we grow up in, the people we surround ourselves with. I do not have a divining rod to see into the future, if there is a future, and understand what they think of our generation, of our choices we make now, in the past. But I have a feeling, I know, just as we have done to previous generations, to thousands of years gone by, they will have feedback, criticism, outright indignation on what we've done. Sheer shock at the stupidity of our mistakes, of the clear error of our ways. I am sorry. I am sorry. On behalf of myself and our generation, our people, humanity. during our time. I can only ask for forgiveness of the things that we have done incorrectly. Some of us meant well, some of us not. We are merely humans. And yet I still hope for the good. For the future. Because that is what humanity does. We hope. We wish. We strive for better, despite our mistakes. Is it an oxymoron? Social media has connected us to people we would never meet in our normal lives 100 years ago. Opportunities most of us pass on by without thinking, but previous generations would be in disbelief. And yet, here we are, lonelier than ever. More apathetic, nihilistic, loss of purpose, meaning, looking for something to throw ourselves at that gives us purpose in this weird world. The times that I feel most alive are not when I'm connected to the internet, not when I'm plugged in. It's when I'm striving, when I'm dying, when I want to die. When I'm fighting for my life in jiu-jitsu. When I'm lifting weights with friends. When I'm having intellectual discussion with loved ones. These are the things that make me feel alive, make me feel human. And all the emotion and all the error of my ways. In those moments, I feel present. Not detached. Present, strong in that moment. Willing to fight for something. That's a sensation that happens too infrequently, I think. These feelings that surround us, lack of passion, lack of purpose, lack of meaning, lack of desire, lack of brotherhood, bond, lack of connection. These all are exemplified within the anthem of our generation.